All right, so moving on to the next segment. Is Zach Wilson the franchise quarterback for the New York Jets moving forward? And this is really, really bad for me to say. I'm going to have to say no. And he was just drafted. He was the second overall pick in the 2021 draft. That quarterback draft class was pretty good coming out. We had when the quarterback draft class we had, let's see, we had Trevor Lawrence, we had Justin Fields, we had Trey Lance, we had Mac Jones, and we had Zach Wilson. Those quarterbacks were the names that were highlighted to be drafted all in the first round, as they respectfully were. But Zach Wilson was the biggest question mark when you look back at it. Why was he drafted the second overall pick by the New York Jets? And we live in an NFL world nowadays where quarterbacks don't have much time to develop before the franchise wants to move on from them and pick up a free agent that's on the streets, a veteran guy or a more talented guy than them, or even the next draft class they turn around and draft a new quarterback. That is the case of how the NFL unfortunately works nowadays. We've seen it with Josh Rosen when he was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals in 2018. A year later, they weren't happy with his progression. Kyler Murray was drafted there. We've seen that's exactly how Zach Wilson got to the New York Jets. Sam Darnold was just in his third year with the team. They didn't like his progression. They turned around and drafted a quarterback named Zach Wilson that following draft class, and Sam Darnold was no longer a New York Jet. So, unfortunately, that's how it goes in the NFL nowadays. And I don't think Zach Wilson should be their franchise quarterback moving forward. And he had me fooled. I'm not going to lie. He had me fooled. And I remember when I first started this podcast, one of the first 3 segments I have ever done with me and the guys on this podcast, we were talking about Zach Wilson. And I said Zach Wilson has potential to be a great player. I started the Zach Wilson train movement on this podcast. Well, I was definitely fooled by Zach Wilson's BYU playing against less competition. That's one thing, and I don't hold that against any athlete at any that's playing at the collegiate level. But I was fooled by how good Zach Wilson was his last year at BYU. I was fooled by Zach Wilson's big game against Coastal Carolina his last year at BYU. I was even fooled at his pro day when he was slinging the ball 60, 70 yards down the field at his BYU pro day. I made comparisons thinking he had an arm just like Aaron Rodgers or like Patrick Mahomes, because I was definitely fooled. I have not seen that type of throw made by Zach Wilson since that pro day and since he's been in a New York Jets uniform and playing for the NFL franchise. He's just fooled the whole entire world. And he's played horrible. Ever since every game that he's played, I never said something about, wow, Zach Wilson was definitely a guy that is going to be a franchise player moving forward. I haven't seen that yet from Zach Wilson. I haven't seen why he was drafted the second overall pick yet. And we're nearly at the end of his second season playing in the NFL. He's played horrible this season. He has 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a QBR of 45.1. That is not going to get it done in the NFL. And the Jets have talent all around him. I've said on this podcast that this past spring, the New York Jets drafted better than any other franchise, any other NFL team this past spring. So they have talent around Zach Wilson. And there's no way this team should be struggling at 6-4. They have weapons. They have Corey Davis, who is unavailable right now. He's been injured for quite some time, missed a few weeks. They still have him though. They still have Garrett Wilson, the 10th overall pick from Ohio State, who is an absolute stud. And they have Elijah Moore, second round pick last year from Ole Miss, who has not been utilized since he's been with the New York Jets. So, and then I could talk about Breece Hall, who is still there. Unfortunately, tore his ACL at the running back position. They still have James Robinson. They still have Michael Carter at the running back position. They had a really good defense that keeps them in ball games, highlighted by the way how Sauce Gardner has played at the cornerback position. Looked like a straight number 1 corner, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Looks like one of the best corners in the league right now. I am ready to even compare him to Darrelle Revis as we speak right now. So there's no reason why this team should be 6-4. And the reason why it is bad offensive play from their starting quarterback. And Zach Wilson, when he plays bad, he takes no accountability, for, especially from that loss they just received on the road this past weekend against the New England Patriots, where they lost that game 10-3. He takes no accountability. He walked around the locker room after the game and said he was not the problem and not the reason why they lost that game. When you have a franchise quarterback who plays bad, no matter what team you're a part of, I don't care who it is. Dak Prescott always owns up when he plays a bad game. Patrick Mahomes will sit at that podium and say he played a bad game. You've heard Josh Allen a few times this season. He's played a bad game. Joe Burrow will do the same thing as well. Any leader at the quarterback position will own up to when they play good and when they play bad. And I have not seen any type of leadership from Zach Wilson up to this point in his second season. And I don't want to hear him walking around the locker room acting like he's not the problem. Telling the media that he's not the reason why. That offensively, they're not the reason why they lost that game. Zach Wilson went 9 for 22 passing, only had 77 yards passing, with a 40.9 completion percentage passing the ball, averaging 3 yards per throw. I can do better than that. That's dink and dunks all game long, and you only got it done 9 times, completing 9 out of 22 of your passes. And Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, is right. And an offensive performance like that is dog crap, dog feces. That's not going to get it done in the NFL no matter what team you play for. And as of right now, I do believe that moving forward, that I'm proud of Robert Saleh for telling media and telling Zach Wilson that his job is under review. It's not guaranteed that he will be the starting quarterback this upcoming week, coming week 12. And I think that's the right call. I think Joe Flacco is the right answer for the New York Jets moving forward for the rest of the season. He just gives them a better chance to win games. He's a motivator. He's a veteran player that knows what it takes to win important games, especially when you're in the race for the AFC North division. AFC East. That they're only a game down from the Buffalo Bills and not too far behind from the Miami Dolphins. And now it's jam-packed in that division. The New England Patriots are making noise in that division as well. So it's still a chance for them to be a playoff team. And I think Joe Flacco just gives them a better chance to win games. He moves the ball better down the field. Obviously, it doesn't take much to see that Joe Flacco... The offense plays so much better when Joe Flacco's in there compared to Zach Wilson. And he's a locker room leader. Zach Wilson is not. And if Zach Wilson starts this next game, week 12, the whole entire Jets locker room is going to be lost. Robert Saleh is going to be head over heels controlling that team. And it's bad because that is a young, talented football team with a lot of young, talented players in that locker room. You lose the locker room and the season's going to go downhill. And Zach Wilson is a bust. It's too early. It might be too early to call, but I didn't see enough from him starting in the NFL at this point. And what I'm about to say is, I'm not joking when I say this. Zach Wilson is the modern day Jamarcus Russell. Now, Jamarcus Russell was a top pick years ago for the when they were the Oakland Raiders. Is the same quarterback who was asked to look at tape and said what he saw on the tape, but when the tape, the truth about the tape, it was blank copies. There was nothing playing on the tape. We're talking about that same Jamarcus Russell, comparing him to Zach Wilson. That's who I think Zach Wilson is, the modern day Jamarcus Russell. And I'm going to compare their stats to you guys. So over the first 20 career starts, Zach Wilson compared to Jamarcus Russell. Zach Wilson's passer rating, 70.7. Jamarcus Russell's passer rating, 70.6. Zach Wilson passing touchdowns and interception ratio. Zach Wilson 13 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Jamarcus Russell's passing touchdowns and interception ratio. 15 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions. Zach Wilson's completion percentage, 55.6. Jamarcus Russell's 52.1%. Then you look at yards at attempt. You have Zach Wilson, 6.3. Jamarcus Russell, 6.2. Win-loss ratio. Zach Wilson, 8-12. as a starter in his first 20 starts. Jamarcus Russell, 6 wins and 14 losses in his first 20 starts. So there you have it. He's the modern day Jamarcus Russell. There's no ifs about it. I didn't see enough from Zach Wilson. He has the talent on the outside to help him out. He has the running game that can help him out. And he has the defense that bails them out of games and helps them win games. He has talent. I don't want to hear it. He's a bust. And they need to figure out a way to move off of him this NFL offseason ASAP. There's gonna be somebody that hits the market that could be playing better at the quarterback position than Zach Wilson. Or you could just try again and draft another quarterback this upcoming spring. Trade up and get one of the top guys in the draft class. But Zach Wilson should no longer be a New York Jet after this season. I didn't see enough from him. I think the New York Jets locker room has seen enough from him. I think Robert Saleh, who is a defensive coach, that's saying something. If a defensive guy knows that you're not the guy, there's a problem. And they got to move off of him quick. But what could potentially go down as one of the biggest mistakes drafting-wise for the New York Jets for the next decade is passing on Justin Fields. Yes, Trevor Lawrence was the first overall pick in that draft class, as he should have been. But Justin Fields was right there at number 2. Trey Lance was there at number 2. Mac Jones was even there when you picked at number 2. You pass on all those guys for a modern-day Jamarcus Russell and Zach Wilson. And it's going to be eating them alive. Justin Fields becomes one heck of a talent. We're already seeing him strive for greatness. We're already seeing the stride in his game on a weekly basis. And they pass on this guy. Imagine how good the New York Jets would be if Justin Fields was playing in the Big Apple for the New York Jets. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. I think they would have a better record than 6-4. Maybe in 7-3 ball club, but they'd be a better team than what they are today. But Zach Wilson needs to be moved on from after the season. The New York Jets need to look elsewhere at the quarterback position.